Gary really, in my mind, made a lot of things work that weren't in script necessarily, but we had a real feeling and a sense of camaraderie and what we were after, and also a sense of the how to do.
You know, with a really realistic selection of guns and a really good weapons advisor and a good military advisor, you know, it lent an additional sense of realism.
We had to take in 1 week and teach these guys how to make themselves look like combat veteran special forces soldiers.
Jesse was a Navy SEAL. He didn't need the training. He cakewalked through the training because he's such a tough guy, you know.
I'll put it this way, I wouldn't want to go in real with these guys, but I'll definitely do a film with them.
I know Jesse voiced that opinion a couple of times.
I don't agree with that.
First morning I was there, Arnold says, hey, we're going to go to the gym and work out.
There was a subtle sort of competition, I think.
Get up at 4 in the morning because you want that pump, but you don't want the other guys to see you getting that pump, because when you walk onto the set, you know, and you look that good, it's got to be natural. You can't work out that hard. You know, nobody does. God just blessed you, you know.
And so at 5:30 in the morning, Arnold's knocking on my door going, get up, we're going down to work out.
And they would run for an hour and a half. Just run. The hills of Puerto Vallarta.
So I get up, go downstairs with them to work out, and they proceed to torture me.
They work out for another 20, 30 minutes. They eat breakfast and get on the bus and go up into the interior.
Arnold's going, more reps, more. You know what I mean? He goes, what are you, a wussy? Pick up that weight.
After we finished work, they would come back, I'm not exaggerating, and run another hour and work out for another hour, eat, and then go to bed.
Every once in a while, you know, you'd walk in there, of course, and there'd be another guy or 2 guys over in the corner pushing some iron, and, you know, I did it a couple of times. You know, I walked in there and said hi to them and looked around and said, what are you guys doing? And, wow, man, you guys are really working hard. And walk out, go find a place to get some coffee, wait till they're gone, and then go in after they're gone, you know. Give nothing away. Give nothing away.
Well, 2 hours later, I couldn't move. I was completely unable, stiff, whatever, but not been more pain in my life. Arnold was taking great pleasure from this.
The biggest thrill for me was when we hit wardrobe, and I happened to view Arnold's wardrobe tape, and when my arms taped out 1 inch bigger than Mr. Olympia's, that made Jesse Ventura feel pretty good.
Well, I'm very happy about that, because then my joke worked. Because I told the wardrobe department they should tell him that, so I can bet him a bottle of champagne afterwards when he comes to the gym. He came to the gym 2 days later and he says, you know something, Arnold? We should measure our arms. Who has bigger arms? I said, of course we should. I said, let's bet a bottle of champagne. He says, of course we should. And then we measured it and my arm was 3 inches bigger than his.
What the fuck?
And he lost a bottle of champagne. So, I mean, you know, the psychotrick trips, they work on everybody, and bodybuilders and also on wrestlers. It was good.
Seen some badass bush before, man, but nothing like this.
I hear ya. This shit's something. Makes Cambodia look like Kansas.
Well, in an action movie, geography is tremendously important. Physical proximity or physical relationship is often at the center of a physical conflict. We've spent whole days working on hillsides that were, you know, like this. And I'm still walking around with a nearly broken wrist. I was climbing looking for a camera position, and the tree I was on broke and dropped me on my head. I think if you check with some of the other publicity people, you'll find there's a picture of the director sticking in a pile of rotten roots with his legs up, and that's it.
The physical thing every day, you don't find yourself even sitting down. I mean, we had to prop this chair up so I could sit straight, right? Standing, you can't stand anywhere that's flat. It's always on an angle on a hillside. So even between the shots, you still have to, you know, it's still tension. It's always tension.
Visually, you've got to create that whole environment that will put people a little on edge.
It's a major minefield, and Don guided me through the minefield. I will be forever in his debt for that.
All the accoutrements of gripping equipment and lighting and all the rest of it have had to be hauled up and down hills endlessly.
Actually, very, very heavy, real jungle is cinematically not very interesting because you can't see anything. You know, your horizon ends at about 4 feet. We would wind up going through and trimming out leaves, not doing any damage, trimming out leaves so that you could see through at some distance.
If you look at Predator just as a design of a film, it's extremely well designed.
We've had to use the environments that John and the producer selected for us and basically make those work.
And we've had to build some trees. We've built 4 or 5 trees out of styrofoam and fiberglass to try and get some of the scale back into the jungle, some of the big root systems and just the large trees that you don't find in these areas.
Shooting the raid on the guerrilla encampment was a long, meticulous process. It's just so brilliantly done. I mean, that was one of the classic action scenes, one of the first and one of the big action scenes.
I killed one of the hostages. We move. Mac, Blaine, the nest. Billy, Buncho, the guard, Hawkins, Dillon, back up. As soon as they're set, I hit the fuel dump.
Yeah, the challenge for me was conceptually, as far as the scope of the stunts, to what magnitude. Every stunt's been done, every application has been done. To me, it was come up with something new.
Going to have to teach me how to patrol through a jungle. Nobody's going to have to teach me how to take a sentry out. And nobody's going to have to teach me how to fire the most awesome weapon, handheld, the world has ever seen.
Jesse had that huge Gatling gun, which makes so very little sense.
I think it fires somewhere around the range of 3 to 5,000 rounds a minute.
When this thing went, it was like the people were all set with their cameras, but no one took a picture because it was like... And they all just stood there. The cameras came down, the mouths dropped open. It was like everyone just...
And that's a cut. Put him out. That's a...
Sergeant! Sergeant! Who get us today?
I don't know. I only saw one of them camouflaged.
We never really saw the Predator, and that's one of the wonderful things about that movie. I mean, we saw, even when my character is shooting and the arm goes off and all that sort of stuff, what my character saw was this sort of apparition that looked like the plants, but he saw the movement.
When you design for visual effects, there are many more parameters that have to be considered than just the camera in action.
We have a red suit that he runs around in the jungle with, and we pull mats off of it. The full camouflage effect, which is made up of a bunch of concentric inlines, we call them. There'll be the film that created the Predator, the background, and what's inside the Predator. We're also doing the heat vision that it uses to see, so that the audience doesn't just see heat, which is kind of a disorienting image. We are shooting regular color film of the background and also a heat image all at the same time, and then combining them together later optically. So in order to do that, both cameras have to see from the same perspective, which we accomplish with a beam splitter, so that the audience knows what they're looking at, and yet at the same time you can see a very startling and spooky image of what the Predator sees.
So that then when those glasses come down, you're real close to the camera, actually.
Okay.
We have a lovely little guy who comes to us from the optical house in New York, who takes measurements of everything, and the angles and this and that, and he's got a protractor alongside the camera and a surveyor's transit, and he checks absolutely everything and says, no, you can't shoot that, you can't shoot that. And he runs up and measures this and measures that. And 3 hours later, he says, all right, maybe you can try it.
And that requires sometimes 6 hours to shoot 1 3-second cut.
We had to go off and start shooting the movie, and they were late turning out the Predator, and we all were desperately anticipating. It's coming, it's coming, it's coming. It's here today? No, tomorrow. Finally, the day it arrived. And they took the crowbars and
pried it open and opened it and lifted it out of the box, and we all